Everyone's in debt. I mean, not everyone, 100% of the population, but everyone meaning young people are in debt, older people in debt. I have a whole range of clientele. Some are in their 20s, some are in their 90s. Some are individuals, some are families. And one thing is for sure, and that is across the board, every demographic, Americans are in debt to some extent.
The thing about economics is they call it the dismal science. It's hard to be positive when you're thinking about money in a lot of ways, and that's kind of the disheartening thing about learning about it. And I think that's why a lot of people don't really pay attention to it, because you don't get to think about unlimited everything. You do have to think about your limits, about scarcity.
This is certainly a consumer-based economy. The largest part of gross domestic product in the United States is from consumer purchases. And we even noticed that in recent years, a few years ago, when we had a downturn in the economy, the reason it was soft and things picked up rather quickly was because of consumer spending.
America has been spending for a very long time now, and suddenly we've reached this halt where spending isn't really what's going to work anymore.
Then you have a mounting pile of debt that eventually gets to the point you can't handle it. So the household purchasing patterns, where we're buying much larger houses than we used to, takes up quite a bit of our income. Automobiles are now taking up a larger part of our income, in effect because people are choosing to buy much more expensive vehicles than they had in the past. And there's someone willing to lend them the money to do it. But that doesn't necessarily make it a great idea.
The definition of accumulating debt is spending more than you make. And I tend to see, with the ease that people can get credit cards now, it's pretty easy to go into debt and stay there. So unfortunately, I think there are a lot of people, that probably the majority of Americans, that are spending more than they earn.
So we were fairly poor. We were happy, you know, as when you're a little kid, you don't really realize how much money you don't have. But then when I turned 12, about that age, my parents got real heavy in the drugs and they split up. My dad was real alcohol abusive. So my mom left my dad, and we were poor, but we were happy not to be getting beat up every now and then by our dad. But then my mom, unfortunately, got hooked on meth. And when that happened, about a year later, we just became completely homeless. I slept on top of school for a little bit. My sister stayed in the car. My mom and my sister slept in the car. Every time I went into a store, I'd feel like I had to buy this item. Like I had to walk out of the store with a piece of gum, at least, whatever it was. So I actually got really compulsive, where anytime I went to the store, if I didn't have anything, then I was kind of upset. I don't know, could you explain it better? It's hard to think.
Michael's been hungry, so there's a lot of security to having a little money in your pocket. And there's a bigger fear than I could ever imagine. And so sometimes you just need to feel like you can when you spend so long with nothing.
Okay, roll camera. You take out the credit card, you put it on the counter for whatever you want to buy, and you buy it, and you give your husband the bill. That's right. And he pays it. Simple. Right?
Yes.
See? Yes, he said.
And then he worries about how to pay for it.
Not to worry. You only live once. You're young, remember that.
Really, I don't think a lot of people in general think about the consequences of their spending in a lot of ways.
You know, we live in a society where instant gratification is important to a lot of people. There's always something that one can buy. There's easy ways to finance it. Until recently, some of those ways were easier than they used to be. But I think we live in a consumptive society, and for the most part, a lot of people want things now, and they'd rather not wait to get it.
It used to be decades ago that most people, particularly people at low and middle income levels, would save money for a big purchase. So buying a washing machine, buying a dryer, buying some very valuable and very convenient household item would be the result of maybe several years of saving money and then a big celebration when you make the purchase. On the other hand, now we tend to buy things before we pay for them, especially large items, and then we pay off the debts.
I mean, when we first got together, and we both became full-time employed, and we first started to generate income, there was a bliss that came with that experience, and there was an extreme compulsion to buy everything, to live at a standard way above our means, and to experience a life that I think that we both sought after and wanted, and we quickly plummeted ourselves into extreme debt, as much as anybody would give us and as fast as we could buy anything at a store. We would buy it and we would, you know, have nothing to show for it in a few months.
Well, it would be easy to just reel off, oh, gas prices, so that changed our driving habits, or the cost of food, so we, you know, obviously we keep eating. I don't know. Interesting comment, interesting question. Say that again.
What is the number one thing in today's changing economy that motivates or that would make you change your spending habits?
I think on a big picture, the 50,000 foot view, I would say right now it's the uncertainty with the presidential election coming up. And I think that that's going to make a significant difference one way or the other. I'm not going to get into politics on the future of America. It really is a significant vote. And if we get the wrong bozo in there, then it will just kill our economy.
How'd the stock market do today?
To be honest, I haven't picked up the Wall Street Journal this morning, so
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll have to wait
that
till tomorrow
frightens me a
morning.
little bit,
The stock
but-
market, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the price of oil, all that stuff. Yeah.
The biggest factor are people's individual behavior. Credit cards are just a means to the end. It's a tool that can help you get there faster. So no, I wouldn't say it's any one particular company's fault or a bank's fault or a credit card's fault. It's our own choices that we make, trying to figure out whether or not we're making the wise choice and spending less than we earn.
Debt doesn't show up on your doorstep. You agree to borrow money. And I think what people need to realize is that they should focus on what they can truly afford to pay back and not borrow money they can't afford to pay back. There's a difference between what we want and what we can afford, and we have to recognize the limitations in our spending power. For those who are already have already gone over the line and gotten trapped in it, I'm not sure what advice you could give them individually.
I think a lot of people could really benefit if they took a piece of paper and a pencil and really tried to track their expenses over the course of a week or a month. They might be surprised what their money goes, especially if things are tight.
I keep all the bills here together just so that I know where everything's at. And I can cross-reference, like last year we spent this much, and so if I need to make a change. And every single week we get $70. We get $10 a day. That's food, diapers, anything that we need is, we have $10. And we don't borrow from the other days because we found that that's bad. Most of the time we can survive on $10. It's usually only if
It
something
sucks.
comes up.
But we can do it.
Do you think money buys you happiness?
Yeah. I think money buys me happiness.
It can certainly buy a lot of things that can buy you happiness. It can put people into the poorhouse if they think they're happy. Some people who don't have money are some of the happiest people in the world. So it's a means to buy things, and it's some of those things that can translate into happiness. But I don't believe money can buy happiness. Sorry.
Like the girls that walk around with Dolce & Gabbana sunglasses and the big Gucci bags or whatever, you can tell that their mommy and daddy pay for an awful lot. And I think it's probably gonna hit them pretty hard once they get their entry-level job and it's only $30,000 a year and they can't afford those Manolo Blahnik shoes anymore. It's gonna be kind of a crunch for them. So I kind of worry about people like that.
In 1970, the typical house in the United States, the average house, was around 1,400 square feet. Yet in 2004, that was over 2,300 square feet. So we're talking about a big increase in purchases in housing. What are we doing with the extra 900 square feet? We're probably filling it with more stuff.
But we dug ourselves out of that hole, and we learned a lot of financial skills and budgeting and lifestyle and what you can live with and what is a need and what is a want. And I think we both learned our lesson that just because there's fear involved, there's not a reason to purchase. And just because you have a hard time, you can get better. You can work through it.